Graphic design? Can you make a living at that?
Three, two, one, fun, 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 fun,
Welcome to Design Futures, a show about what happens after design school. I'm Chris St. Cyr, and my guest on this episode is Rachel Suflita McKee. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, Rachel is an art director at Pinkergreen, a Boston-based design firm, where she directs and designs projects for clients such as Zolt, LexRx, the Bug Club, and the Boston University Global Music Festival. Previously, she worked at, nowhere, because she worked for Pinkergreen right after graduation, which we're going to talk about. Yep. She is a 2016 graduate of the College of St. Rose. Wow, it's 16. That doesn't seem that long ago. What is that? You haven't worked anywhere else. How did that all start? How did you just go from college to working at Pinkergreen in Boston?
Yeah, so when I was a junior, we had the internship requirement at St. Rose, and I knew I wanted to go to Boston. And I had been reaching out to a bunch of different firms all over the place, in-house and studio. And I had gotten hired at an in-house position, accepted it, was all set, ready to go. And then like a week later, Kelly from Pinkergreen reached out, was like, hey, we loved your portfolio, would love to offer you an internship. So I ended up taking both. Loved my internship experience with Pinkergreen. And then it just so happened that the following year when I graduated, I reached out just to see what was going on, and they had a position available. So I went back and have never left.
So did you do two internships at the same time, that same summer?
I did.
How big is the studio? Same size now as it was back then, or has it grown? Or what was the size when you started as an intern?
Yeah, so when I was an intern, we just had three other people. Mm-hmm. So my boss, Kelly, and then there's two other designers. Currently, we're at 5 people. So we've got a designer, senior designer, art director, which is me, our creative director, and then we have our only non-designer is our director of operations.
So you started, what were you doing? So as an intern, what kind of projects did you work on? What experience was it like? What did you learn?
Yeah, so Pinkergreen is like a totally different company now than when I was an intern. We've grown like so much since then. When I started as an intern, Pinkergreen is like one of the benefits of working in the small agency space is always going to be that like there's a wide range of projects to work on. And because we're like a very full service agency, we're able to sort of touch a lot of different things. So that was, the same as when I was an intern to now. I got to work on photoshopping, lots of different photos for a cookie company when I was an intern. Mm-hmm. I got to work on logos, social posts for clients, all sorts of different things.
I mean, you've worked for the small studio and only for the small studio firm. And you just kind of talked a little bit about like there's a variety of things that mm-hmm. you work on. Part of what I think, coming out of school or being an intern, like that's what students are investigating. Like, how do you know that the small studio is for you and for your future? Like, why not a big agency or be in-house somewhere? What makes it special? What connection do you have to it that says this is the right place for you right now, maybe even?
Yeah. Again, I was like super lucky that I got to experience both an in-house position and a studio set up when I was an intern. So right off the bat, I like had a pretty good idea that I wanted to go the smaller agency route. I think what makes working at a small agency like special is you're always going to be like a very valued member of the team. Like you're not going to get sort of lost in the fray of a large agency where maybe your opinions and your ideas may not have as large of an impact.
And I noticed on somewhere there's language. It says women owned and led. So you're one of the leaders. Does that signal to people like a certain way of working, or do you attract certain clients because that's like a statement that you put out there? Or maybe it doesn't impact anything, but does it make a difference at all?
I think it does. I think, in the last, several years, I think there's been sort of a movement towards hiring diverse companies or, women-led organizations. And I think in terms of Pinkergreen, like one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is having like a very a good sense for listening to clients and really like taking in what they're trying to achieve and connecting with them on like a strong level. I think that does play into it. We certainly have attracted clients because we're a women operated and led organization.
Mhm.
So I think it does play into the type of work we get. It also can go the other way. Like we've certainly had clients who tell us our work is too feminine.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
which
Yeah, you're like, what does that
I
mean?
wouldn't totally agree with.
Right, right.
But yeah, it does go both ways, but I think overall it definitely serves us for the better.
Yeah, I always wonder about that. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
Feminine or
what does
masculine
that mean?
design? Like, I don't, right angles and black and white is
Yeah.
masculine and like frilly, organic things are feminine. That's something it's sort of annoying as an educator because there's a lot of that comes into like the critique and,
Totally.
and looking at work. It's like, well, I don't know. You have to be careful about like things like that. Is it serving the purpose of the client, the audience, the project? It's like, well, yeah, then it
Absolutely.
needs
Yeah.
like this certain color palette and this typeface. And yeah, I think we have to get beyond some of that.
Yeah, totally.
There's some language about the company. It says be business to business project. What does that mean? Business to business project.
We definitely have a range of clients. Like we do have clients in the consumer goods space, which is very easy to sort of get your head around. And then we have clients who are just other businesses. Like we've got a variety of clients in the biotech space. Boston's like a huge hub for biotech. So we've got a bunch of those always sort of ongoing. We've got clients in like the medical space, education, and that would be like a more traditional business to business relationship. So you're not like working with a consumer good product. You're not marketing to people who are going to like, buy a service or whatever. So it's a more traditional like businessy corporate.
Yeah. Only other businesses are going to see whatever it is you're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's since we started talking about that, let's take a look at, is Flyte that a startup? Is that what I read? Yeah, it's a startup here.
Yep,
And
they're a cosmetics company that's targeting women over the age of 35, which is fairly unique in the industry. They were a startup client that we started working with, I want to say in late 2018. Yeah, this was a really fun one to work on. We got to do sort of everything, which I think is one of the things that Pinkergreen really loves to do is like sort of work holistically with clients to sort of touch all of the different touch points and really work like as a creative partner. So this was a great one where we got to, start from the initial logo all the way through the cosmetics packaging and the website and all the different things.
And so what are you doing as art director for a project like this?
The brand strategy is a big part of that role, like really coming up with sort of the overarching like direction and really thinking about like conceptually how things are going to roll out across all of the different touch points, not just on this project, but on all of our projects where I'm working in the art director space, communicating that to our other team members and sort of helping them sort of achieve that vision.
And so what's it like as far as what are the challenges working with startups?
Oh, the budget is always a challenge with startups because it takes so much to get a company off the ground. And it's not just the design side, like they've got so many other pieces of like launching a company. I think Pinkergreen does a good job of like taking on really creative work that they may not have the budget, but it's going to be really like creatively fulfilling and has a lot of potential. And also balancing that with, clients who are going to be the money makers. So like biotech and some of our more corporate clients, because they're established and they have the funds to sort of invest in a design team.
Is this cosmetics as well? The
So
LexRx?
Yeah, so LexRx is a Boston-based aesthetic injectables practice in Boston. And they've since have launched a skincare line. So we came on at the very beginning of this company as well. This was actually one of the things I did work on. I may have been an intern, or I may have just started at Pinkergreen. It was one of the first things I worked on, was the branding for this client. It's run by two incredibly smart nurse practitioners in Boston who have really worked to sort of like destigmatize, injectables, and have really sort of paved the way in this space.
Is there anything in your experience with like the packaging part of the project? Is packaging design, because it's 3-dimensional, are there certain interesting aspects that you found, or challenges that are different than, say, like just kind of typical like 2D kind of applications of design systems?
Yeah, definitely. The packaging for Flyte 70 in particular was super challenging, because there's just so many limitations in what you can do. Like, you can design this amazing packaging and have all these bells and whistles, and then it's either $1 billion to produce it, or they just tell you can't do that because it's just not going to work. They don't have the tolerances, or they don't have the ability to print whatever way you're sort of asking them to. So yeah, this one was a big learning experience. Yeah, it's definitely a different can of worms when you're working on different surfaces. Like these, it's even different from like, we had done the packaging for Zolt as well, which is, like paper cartons. Like that's like fairly easy to like get your head around, because it starts flat and it's just folded. When it's like a literal plastic 3-dimensional thing, that's very different. And there's a whole set of different limitations.
Yeah. So the clients are working with the manufacturer, and like, here are your options at your price point and your product for, like a tube or whatever kind of applicator or whatever, right? So, okay. And then you're just getting that information and applying the design.
Yes.
And the Boston University Global Music Festival, that looks fun.
Yeah,
This
is a really, really fun one. This is a fairly new festival. I think it started in 2019. Boston University started this global music festival where they bring in all of these different international artists and put on this music festival at the campus. So yeah, we got to do the branding for this. This was like a super fun, colorful, like very vibrant project to work on. It was just a ton of fun.
Was this visual language something that you came up with at Pinkergreen, or was it already established from some other?
No, so
No.
this was fully developed by us. It was great because they were really hoping to sort of give this festival like its own identity. So we really like, the only sort of pull through is the BU red, and obviously the logos on everything. But
and so you did posters and looks like a wristband.
Yeah, all the little VIP
all the
staff and t-shirts and lots of different ads.
I just really enjoy the range of typography, mostly, I guess, on your logo page, because everything is so different. And there's the Bug Club. What was the Bug Club? I mentioned that in the intro. Explain that to me again.
Yeah, so this was a club created by a local florist in Boston called Junebug, and they had launched like a monthly subscription flower delivery that they wanted to fully brand. So they came up with the name The Bug Club, and we had done the branding for it, which was super fun. It was like just a small one-off logo project, but it was super fun because the visuals obviously are super rich, and they were really interested in some fun typography.
So this is on your personal website. Are all these from like Pinkergreen, or it's like freelance or other things? Or
majority of these are from Pinkergreen.
Okay.
The only one that is not, and it's sort of a fake logo at this point, is the last one, because it was based on a concept for a client at Pinkergreen that was not selected, and I was just sort of devastated by it. So I took the concept and applied it to sort of a fake, but I just loved the typography for that.
Yeah.
There's always a good range of branding projects going on at Pinkergreen, which they're just always so fun. It's fun to work on a logo always. Over the last 7 years, I've gotten a chance to work on a bunch of different logos. So
yeah, I think it's also a good example to show, people, it's like, well, as a designer, you really shouldn't have a style, right? Like you have to
Totally.
honor the project and what
Yes.
it's trying to communicate.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons to learn right out of school is like when you're a student, you can do whatever you want. You're your own client. It's very easy to sort of develop a style when you're in school, but ultimately, like when you're working for a client, you have to put some of that aside and really do what's best for the project.
Yeah, so you're art director now. Is there, I mean, other than being owner of your own place, is there another step? Like, is there senior art director? Is that like a possibility? It's because you're only art director. What, you've been in that level a year?
I think
No,
almost 2 years.
almost 2 years. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because I started out as an intern and sort of
Yeah.
climbed up through this company. So I don't know. I'm feeling very comfortable in this role right now, and it was like definitely a new challenge to sort of move into like more of a managerial role. So yeah, I don't know what's next, but nothing for the time being. I'm sort of
Let's
sort of
stay
in the
here for a while.
groove.
Yeah, that's good. So because so you started as an intern and you've worked your way up. Like again, I sort of joked about it in the intro. It's like you haven't worked anyplace else, but when I look on your LinkedIn, it's like, yep, it's just all Pinkergreen and like these different steps up, that says something about a company too.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak highly enough of the experience at Pinkergreen.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it does say something that, people don't want to leave after
yeah.
they come because it really is just like a lovely environment to work
Yeah.
in.
So can you, if you're comfortable sharing a range of like the different salaries that you've moved up? Because again, it's interesting, like at one company, usually, you get a big salary jump when you switch companies, right? But
Mhm. Yeah.
what has your experience been like as far as like the roles and responsibility, the financial compensation kind of thing?
Mhm. Yeah, when I started, I came on full time as a junior designer, and I think I was in the range of like 40K a year.
Mhm.
Now, as an art director, I'm making just under 100K a year.
Okay.
So Pinkergreen has been great in sort of being competitive.
So what are your responsibilities for like as art director?
When I moved into this role, I started definitely sort of steering overall direction of projects
Mhm.
more, but also, I'm working with the other designers on our team in like a more managerial role,
Yeah.
providing mentorship and, whatever I can sort of help facilitate for them to be successful on a project.
I mean, Boston, and as you said, like the competitive aspect, like Boston it's got a good design community. I mean, it's strong. Like that's where I started as my career working in-house at publishing and then grad school and doing other things. But I really enjoyed the design community there. There was definitely things going on and meeting lots of people and lots of really strong work out of small studios that I remember back then, and I think that's probably still true now, as well as like it has big agencies and too, but a lot of design talent in that city. So
Yeah, especially in the South End, which is where our office is, there's like a really, really rich artistic community, which is just lovely to sort of be a part of.
yeah, school. Let's talk about St. Rose.
Yeah.
St. Rose. So my first year at St. Rose was your sophomore year,
Hmm.
and I have to say, you made an impression on me early on because I was my first semester at St. Rose. I had taught a number of years before that, but when you come into a new place, it's like this is the curriculum, these are the courses you're going to teach. Here's some projects we've taught in the past, and there was this one project, and you probably remember the story, but like, okay, yeah, let's do it. I just gotta get in there and do stuff and like get comfortable with all these things. And so,
Yeah.
we had this project where we were investigating sort of the visual language of a particular designer, which I didn't
Oh,
totally agree. Like we just talked about style, right? Like
yeah.
designers shouldn't have styles, especially like the famous ones that, only design students and designers know. But
Yeah.
and I believe you had Paula Scher. Is that right? You picked
Yes,
Paula
I did.
Scher. I remember this one day in class. You were like, I don't feel totally comfortable doing this. You had
I
ethical questions.
hated that
You had
project.
ethical questions about that. And I was so excited that you like pushed back. I was like, Okay, that's great. I'm glad you were thinking this way. Can you talk about that? Do you remember that? I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah, I
yeah.
remember that. That project, I really did not love it.
Yeah. I made me a little nervous giving it too. I have to say, like,
Yeah, I just did not love the idea of like copying
right.
someone's style that they've developed. And we did just talk about style and how designers shouldn't really have a style when they're, especially when they're in like an agency or, whatever space, because ultimately you're working with clients. But these famous designers
Right.
have these styles that they've honed over, all
Right.
of the years of their careers. And I just did not love the idea of like coming up with something that was mine, but not
Yeah.
actually mine because it was just, based on someone else's style.
Yeah. I mean,
I,
it was
I remember that vividly.
yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of an homage to the designer because we used
Yeah.
a quote and we were kind of like design a poster about that person. So it wasn't entirely like ripping off somebody and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
claiming it was your own. Although there's definitely a debate about like whether that can actually even be a thing, that like this color palette and these typefaces used in combination is owned by Paula Scher or Stefan Sagmeister or whoever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it would have been different if we were like, okay, now take that and like make your own thing out of it, which we did not do. It's definitely one of those moments in my teaching career. I mean, when I gave the project, I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen with this. So, and I'm so glad that you said that. I was like, yep, okay, Rachel's somebody to keep an eye on because she's definitely thinking about these things that, we should be thinking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I remember you saying to me, like, yeah, like it's a weird spot to be in. I got through that project. It was fine.
Yeah. What are the takeaways from your time at St. Rose or getting a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, being in art and design school? What memories do you have of that time?
I really loved the program at St. Rose, aside from that project. I think
That's fine.
I think I came out of that program with just like a really strong foundation, a good understanding of like the technical side of design, which is I've reviewed a lot of student portfolios now. And I think that's one of the things that, is hard when you're looking at a student portfolio. Like you can't always tell sort of the technical ability when you're looking to hire somebody. It's like a big concern, when you're bringing someone on to a team where you're going to have to be like, pushing out work that's going to be produced and, out there in the world. But I think St. Rose did a really good job of giving sort of that really strong foundation.
That might have been around the time that I started doing different things technically and what I required of students. I mean, it might have been some of your classmates. I definitely have older examples, but I have a folder full of just names that students would name their files when they turned in. There's a lot of profanity. So around that time, though, I did start requiring a certain kind of naming convention for files
Yeah.
that I would just tell them, no, you're going to put your first name and your last name. And so, yeah, there might have been something in there that I was delivering to students. Like, no, you got to be professional with how you name your files and your layers in your projects. And
Yeah, the like the file management
yeah,
is a big concern, when you're working in real life with other people, with other designers who have to hop into your files. Like,
right. So you mentioned like the technical part, education and looking at student portfolios. When you think back, other than, copying other designers' work, what would you say advice you would give to design programs or faculty? It's like, this is what you need to be talking about now. I mean, foundations, the basic principles, that's not really going to go away. But what are some new things that you've thought about as an art director looking at younger portfolios coming out of school that, you would advise education
yeah,
on?
I think I love this question. I think the number one thing I look for in student portfolios now is like examples of practical work applications. Like, I think student portfolios can skew very experimental, and
Mhm.
that's the sort of a lot of school projects are, that's just how they're set up. which, has value. Like it's the only time you're going to be your own client and you can
Yeah.
do things that are very experimental, but like ultimately, if I'm reviewing a portfolio and I can't see how they're going to be able to roll out their skills across actual client work where there's rules and there's all these different people you have to answer to, I definitely struggle with those portfolios the most. So having some more like practical real world projects in design school, I think would be massively beneficial.
So what would be an example of like a format, like just doing a website, or what do you mean by like the more practical?
Yeah.
And how would you know that they're, I guess, is is it that you're having the conversation to know what those parameters are and deadlines and audience? Like,
When we interview students, we always get into like, tell us about the project. What did you have to do here? All the sort of ins and outs of the project setups to sort of give us that context. I reviewed a few student portfolios even recently. We just hired an intern where they're actually working with other departments or other like programs, like the
yeah,
communications program or the marketing program, where they're actually working like with a client,
yeah, yeah,
which is great experience. I also think web and digital, like that's the way the world is moving. There's just so much to learn in that space, and
yeah,
it's like constantly evolving, and in terms of like what's possible and best practices and accessibility. Like accessibility is not even a thing that's taught in school. At least it
right,
was definitely not when I was there.
yeah,
So yeah, heavier focus on web and digital, I think is
yeah.
key. Mhm.
So before you got to St. Rose, were you interested in graphic design? Did you know what it was, or was it just like, I don't know, I just took art classes in high school, or how did you get to be a design student at St. Rose?
Yeah. I had taken art classes all throughout high school. I knew I really loved, something. I wanted to do something in the creative space. And I think in my senior year of high school, I do think my parents always had like a secret hope that I would like go be a doctor or like go like major in finance or something.
Yeah.
But I think my mom sort of knew that that was not going to happen. And I think for like 5 seconds, I was like, okay, well, if I want to be creative, I can either do like graphic design or I can do like architecture. And then I was like, I hate math. Like, I don't want to be an architect. So it was graphic design. So I came in as a design student one year and never looked back.
Yeah, and they were okay with that.
Yeah.
And are you from upstate New York? How did
Yeah.
you are?
Yep, I
Okay.
grew up in Schenectady.
Oh, okay. So
So
close by.
yeah, so really close by. So yeah, I was a commuter.
Did you apply to other art and design programs within liberal arts colleges or art and design
Yep.
colleges?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had applied to a few. I applied to New Paltz, I know, but I
Mhm.
didn't. I thought St. Rose's program was better.
Nothing in the big city of New York.
No, it's like still such a shock to everybody that I ended up living in the city. Like I've got two older brothers, and of the three of us, I think my parents would have guessed like I was the least likely to leave. And they're still both local, and I'm the only one who sort of left the nest. Um, but yeah, so I was not interested in the big city. My husband, so he had gone to college in Boston, so that's
Oh, that's how you end up in Boston, huh?
all for the better. I love living here.
Yeah. What do you love about Boston?
Oh, it's like the perfect size city. Like you get all of like the fun city life, but it's so manageable. Like I love the history of Boston. It's like such a beautiful place.
Yeah. So other parts of life, I noticed that and we did talk about this last time we spoke, like you seem to have this connection with Maine. I did grow up in Maine, 18 years of my life. My first 18 years are in
My
Maine.
main mug right now.
Yeah, oh, that's right. That's like the unofficial logo or
Yeah,
something,
like the
the
main
pine tree with
flag
a
or something.
star. Is that on the flag? I don't
Yeah.
even know. I haven't lived there in so long. So like you were saying you don't really have a connection, you just like Maine or the coast or something. What's your connection with Maine?
I really don't have a major connection.
Mm,
We like to go on a big family vacation with my immediate family
mhm.
every summer, and we bounced around and for like a few years to different areas, and then I think the last 4 years we've just gone back to Maine, different parts.
You have, I noticed on Instagram, like there's always a dog. What kind of dog do you have? It's a little
I've got a
fluffy dog,
Yeah, I've got a Wheaten Terrier.
a Wheaten Terrier. What does a Wheaten Terrier look like?
She is like a 30-pound fluff ball. She's tan. Her name is Zola. She's
Zola.
yep, she's very cute.
I also noticed there's a lot of like food, and so are you a big cook or baker or yeah,
I
what's
love cooking and baking.
okay.
Got really into cooking during COVID because there was
Okay.
nothing to
There's a lot of baking in my house during the pandemic
do.
lockdown days. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've always loved food. My husband's a super adventurous eater. I'm a big cook now.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite dish that you like to make?
Oh,
Or-
bolognese. I love pasta.
That sounds like it takes a long time. Does it take a long
It
time
does
to
take a
make?
long time. It takes like
Oh,
5 hours.
oh, so that's yeah, your whole Sunday afternoon.
But it's like hands-free. It's just chills in the oven.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's been other people that I've interviewed, and I forgot to ask somebody, but I'm going to ask you because you have this photo of the goat yoga thing. What,
Oh,
like, I just like goat yoga. What is that about? Like, why is that a thing? And what was that experience like? There's an image of you on Instagram of like a goat, like standing on your back.
hmm
How,
yeah.
how does that
So
work?
so I got married on a farm in upstate New York, like a real farm where they had animals, and they do goat yoga there. So we did goat yoga the day before my wedding. It was so fun. It's like yoga is like a very loose term there.
Yeah.
It's mostly just like playing with goats. It was so fun though. Like these little tiny, although ours were not that tiny, I feel like it depends what time of year you go because
Yeah.
they're like all born in the spring and we got married in October. They were adorable. They would come up and jump on your back and
So are they trained in any way? Do they know, like, why
I
do they
don't
just,
think so.
they just jump on
Well,
your back?
goats like to climb. They like to climb
Oh,
stuff.
right.
Um, and I apparently they'll just jump on you.
They'll just jump on anything, including humans, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly.
Oh, wild. Yeah, I've never done that kind of yoga for sure.
It's a trip. I would
Yeah,
recommend it. It's a fun experience.
that sounds good. I guess that would be a pre-wedding ceremony activity. That's pretty tame as far as wedding activities go.
Yeah,
As far as other things that could happen, I suppose, right?
very true.
Yeah. There are some questions that a while back I asked students, like if you had an opportunity to ask, practicing designers. So some of these would certainly relate to your position working in a
Mhm.
small studio. So student question number one, what's the most difficult aspect of working with a client?
That's hard to name name one. I think like design by committee is the
Oh,
hardest thing to deal one of the hardest things
mhm.
to deal with clients.
Yeah.
When clients come in with these big committees or they have like all these different opinions to manage, like it's so hard to get consensus because it's really hard for clients to put aside like personal preference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to take that question back to school. Like that is a challenge with clients. Do you think that you started to realize that in maybe a school setting when, five classmates give you five different things to do to improve your project, and you're like, I can't do all five of those, or you
Yeah.
want to try to do all five? Like, can you connect that with like a not a particular critique, but just the idea of critique in school? Was it
Yeah.
was it challenging in that way, or do you just kind of like, no, I know what I'm going to do to improve my project?
I think you always have to sort of take all of the feedback and opinions and sort of like synthesize like okay, if people are telling me conflicting things here, like what are they getting at? When clients or students are critiquing a certain project or whatever, people can get very specific in terms of like what they're giving you for direction. And if you take it sort of a step backwards and think about like, okay, well, they're all giving me the solution, but maybe if I take it a step back and just think about what, like, okay, maybe what's not working here, then you can sort of synthesize and come up with your own solution. That's
Yeah.
not quite so specific. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the pop quiz.
Oh no, pop
Yeah,
quiz.
just like Lucy Bowditch's art history class. Sketchbook, blank or gridded?
Gridded.
How many Red Sox games have you been to?
2.
Two, only 2 in your 7 years in Boston.
Listen, I'm from New York.
Work beverage. You're drinking coffee right now. You drink coffee all day long at work?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. After work beverage?
Coffee or water. Yeah. After work beverage, a nice glass of Sauvignon Blanc. Not right now because I am currently pregnant, but Sauvignon Blanc.
Music genre you design to? Are you listening to music at work?
If I'm listening to music, I really get into like indie soul music. But honestly, I'm mostly listening to podcasts.
Yeah, podcasts.
Mhm.
True crime. That's the answer I get a lot.
Yeah.
Really? I don't understand listening to podcasts, let alone true crime, while I'm trying to like focus on something.
You get in the zone.
Oh.
I can't do any podcasts while I'm like writing emails or
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
back or whatever. But if I'm like just in the groove, churning stuff out, love a good podcast.
All right, you're from the Northeast. Favorite season?
Fall.
Fall. That's the correct answer. Just in case anybody's paying attention at home. Type or image?
Image.
Maine, Massachusetts, or New York?
Oh, that's hard.
You only pick one.
Massachusetts.
Favorite typeface?
Oh God, you're gonna make me pick one?
Oh, that sounds like a true designer there. You're gonna make me pick one.
Oh, that's
Well,
terrible. I really like it's a typeface I'm currently using for a client. It's called Modern Era. It's like a lovely round sans serif.
at a small studio, Pinkergreen, how do you back up your files?
We have a server, so we have
Okay.
a remote server that all of our files live on.
Back to the baking. Favorite pastry?
Ooh, croissant.
All right. Final
I've made
question.
croissants before. They're very difficult.
They are. There's lots of layers and lots of butter, right?
So much butter.
Yeah, so much butter. You're basically just eating butter. Okay, final question. If you weren't a designer, what would you be?
Oh goodness. It would have to be something else in a creative space. So I don't know, maybe like a calligrapher or something.
There you go. But not in finance. No.
Not in finance.
All right. Final thoughts for designers.
Yeah. Think about what you actually really love working on and tailor your portfolio to that.
That is good advice. Yeah, be strategic about that, right?
Yeah.
That is a tough challenge when you're coming right out of school. It's like,
Yeah,
I just
it
want
is.
a job, right? I just want a job. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you want a job where you're going to be doing work you like.
We didn't talk about, yeah, you mentioned that you are going to be having a child in March. That's super exciting.
It's
Yeah.
very exciting. Yep.
Are you nervous?
Oh, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
who wouldn't be nervous? It's like the biggest, most life-changing thing you could possibly do.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. It never ends, right?
I know.
Nope, you're going to be 80 years old and you're still going to be a parent worrying about some aspect of your child's life.
Yep. Yeah. We're pretty
Oh.
excited though. Yep.
Yeah.
We're having a baby girl in March.
Well, I so appreciate your time because I know that you, especially soon enough, your time's going to be not your own time. It's going to be somebody else's time. But it was great talking to you. Yeah, I will be in touch and hopefully you can meet up in Boston sometime.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So what do we learn from Rachel? Well, make sure you have some web design in your student portfolio. And when you're getting feedback from a client or classmates, make sure to synthesize all those comments to improve your design. Thanks to Rachel Suflita McKee of Pinkergreen. If you have any comments or questions for me or any of my guests, please leave them in the comments and subscribe so you can catch the next episode of Design Futures. Until next time, go learn something. Your future depends on it. Thanks for listening. See ya.